fam, this is Kevin Duhart with the Yellow Tape Podcast, thin line between Christ and culture. Let's get into it.
All right, good evening, or what is this? Good morning. We're gonna come together. We're about to start this session. It's something we're doing brand new for the first year at 5 Conference. Have y'all been enjoying the conference so far? Have you been enjoying this meeting so far? So today, we're talking over the last few months about what we were going to do in the sessions, and we want to flip it just a little bit and do something different, because there's some meaningful conversations, I believe, that need to be had in the body of Christ about where we are, where the church is going, where the church is headed, and et cetera. And there's so much happening in our culture, so much happening in our world, so much happening in our worldview, our Christian worldview, and even where we are divided concerning Christianity. And the question always is asked of me by pastors everywhere when we have conversations: where do you feel the church lands on these topics? Where does the church land in these lanes? And what is our responsibility to these moments, and et cetera? And so we're going to spend the next 90 minutes, if you so, having a wide range of conversations. And then if the Lord says the same, we'll open up for a few questions. So Pastor Kim's going to take this segment as we get ready to talk about, I believe, mental health.
Mental health is next. If we can get our mental health group to come on to the stage. All right, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give everybody a chance to introduce who they are. Not just title, but what you do also, just real quickly.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Denisha Anderson, and I am a professional school counselor. I work in a high school.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Vinay Walker. Doctor. I am a licensed marriage and family therapy associate and the owner of Graceful Living Counseling.
Hey guys, I'm Apostle Cherie Eddington. I like to refer to myself as a Holy Spirit-led therapist, and I have the pleasure of co-leading Liberate Church with my husband in Dallas, Texas.
Hey, I'm Clifton Eddington, apostle and pastor as well of Liberate Church in Dallas. Professionally, I'm an engineer specializing in structural engineering as well as a construction executive.
All right, let's give it up for our panelists. So we're going to jump right in as we have 30 minutes for this segment. Also, here's the question. Can someone have deep faith and still experience depression, anxiety, trauma, or other mental health challenges? And how should the church respond?
I'm going to let y'all go. I'm long-winded.
Jump in. So yes, absolutely. Mental health challenges can be influenced by several things. It can be psychological, it can be physiological, it could also be life experiences and trauma. So it definitely can occur in both. How the church can respond is by creating a safe space, by being compassionate, by being non-judgmental, by praying, and then also using discernment.
I think that's a multifaceted question. I think when you're looking at the different natures of depression, anxiety, trauma, I think one can lead to the next if you don't grab yourself, especially when you're dealing with coming out of or dealing with trauma that can then lead to other areas of, like you said, anxiety or depression. When it comes to trauma, absolutely. When it comes to anxiety, the Bible speaks about anxiety. Be anxious for nothing. And then when it comes to depression, I think depression to me is almost a different story. When you look at the psalm, typically when I deal with people who are going to depression, for me the psalm is one of the more effective areas, because you're looking at a man in David, for the most part, who in some cases you could almost say was borderline depression. when you look at he brought me up and out of the pit. When you're talking about depression, depression is, for me, having experienced what I feel like was borderline earlier in life, is what is a place of hopeless despair, where there's almost like no bottom, where you're continuing to fall and fall and fall, and there's no way to pull yourself out of it. And so when you use the phrase deep faith, you have to be careful, because there are a lot of people who have faith, but their faith may not be as deep as they thought it was. And so when you're saying deep faith and you look at the life of David, eventually what happens is he says, God brought me out of the pit, right? And then he says he established me on a rock. And so there is, I think, a fine line when you're talking about trauma, anxiety, and then depression, because the church absolutely has a place and a role to play in each and every one of those things. And when it comes to the psychological standpoint of it, you got to know where you are in your state of mind. You got to know when you need help, because sometimes we go too far before we ask for help. Because there are many cases where we need somebody to help pull us out of that place. And so I know it's one of your questions, where counseling then becomes necessary to get pulled out of that place. But if you're a person who is in deep faith, you recognize you're never in this thing alone. A lot of times we try and deal with what we're dealing with alone, and so then we wind up falling deeper because we don't have anybody to help pull us out.
The short answer is yes. And I think an important place to start is that there is a significant distinction between mental health and mental illness. It's not the same. Yes. Mental health is more broader. It deals with emotional, psychological well-being. For example, we all as humans will experience grief. We'll experience different things associated with impact that we've had in our life. It doesn't mean that you're depressed. When we talk about mental illness or a mental disorder, that is dealing more with like the DSM-5. It's a clinical diagnosis. So it's not one and the same. I think that's very important for the church to understand. Also, as far as what can the church do to assist, I think that we should be more intentional in having collaborative spaces, which is embracing other people who may not be in our churches, may not be, even if I'm honest, Christians, but they are specialized due to their own training. And if we would willingly embrace them and connect with those individuals, we can too learn from them what they have already been skilled to do through their process of training and education.
I agree with what everyone said. I feel that this question and the way it's phrased leads us to why people have a hard time acknowledging when they're having challenges in the area of mental health, because they think it's a reflection of a faith issue.
Yeah.
If you are in a fight and someone kicks you and beats you and hits you, and you get up and you're limping and you're bruised and you can barely function, no one thinks that's a surprise. Correct. Because they saw you were in a physical altercation, and the result of it was a physical wound. And many have experienced emotional and mental abuse, physical even abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, all forms of abuse. And it is only in the area of mental health where we act surprised when you show signs of abuse. Right. And we say that's a faith issue, not the consequence of being mishandled. And I think a lot of times we can't get the help we need because we have been shamed for showing the consequence of our upbringing and our life experiences. And a lot of times I find that it's not necessarily a faith issue, because faith is divine persuasion that is inbirthed by the Spirit to believe that God is, and He is a rewarder of them who diligently seek Him. I can trust Him and know that Jesus died on the cross for me. That's usually not the issue. It's a trust issue. Trust means I have to depend and put my weight upon Him. I can believe Him and not trust Him. Why? Because there have been people in my life who were placed in my life to care for me, to love me, to protect me, to nurture me, and maybe they didn't do that. Maybe they did quite the opposite of that. And we build our perspective of God based on our first relationships, which is typically our parents, our guardians. And so we project our experience with them onto God. And now because they're not trustworthy, God's not trustworthy. And so it's a layered question. But I just want to free somebody in here this morning who doesn't want to acknowledge the challenges you've been walking through because you think it's a sign that you don't have faith in God. And it is okay if you are showing the consequence of your experience and your encounters with people.
Can I add to that? Go ahead. I look at it like this. If I'm having a heart issue and I decide to go to a cardiologist, I'm not questioning my faith. Yes. If I have cancer and I go see a specialist, an oncologist, I'm not considering, do I lack faith or do I not have deep faith because I went to the cardiologist or the oncologist or the endocrinologist with diabetes. So it's the same way. That's how I process it when I'm dealing with questioning or thoughts about mental health in my faith or relationship with the Father.
I'd like to add something to what Prophetess Reed said as well. None of us are exempt from emotional distress.
That's right.
If you really think about it, Jesus was experiencing emotional distress before He went to the cross. So none of us are exempt. That does not mean that He didn't have faith. It does not mean that He didn't trust His Father, because He still went. But I'm saying that to say none of us are exempt. We all experience challenges, and it's okay to acknowledge that.
So good. So to piggyback off of what you're saying, I'm throwing a wrench in here because y'all didn't get this question. So I think mental health for sure is a buzzword right now. It's a buzzword. But then also generations before us, mental health was taboo.
Right. That's right.
Like mental health meant basically you're crazy. So nobody wanted to own what they were going through, or they were taught, just get through it, But with that being said, with all of you being ministers and this being the church, how do we navigate between people that have legit issues versus those that have become enamored with their trauma? I call it the seduction of inadequacy. Like, I use my trauma as my identity, and I don't know who I am, because anybody that's sat in counsel with people, you have people that are really trying to get away from a thing, but you have people that continuously come to you about the same thing, and at that point, I have to question, you like this? So as Christians and then as professionals, how do you navigate that, and how do you suggest people that work on regular teams that, discipleship, how do we disciple people that have become enamored with their situation?
I want to speak on one thing briefly, and it's something that we've established within our ministry, and it revolves around counseling, and my wife can attest to this. Is one of the first things we say, especially when someone comes in and they've been dealing with a lot and they want immediate attention regarding their issue, is we want to know what the issue is, what's taking place. Is it an emergency? Is it something that needs immediate attention that could potentially even be life-threatening? Because first and foremost, we want to know, did you give time for the Word to work it out? We ask the simple question, how often you come into church? Are you at Sunday and Wednesday? Are you reading your word? Are you studying your word? How much prayer time are you spending with God? And then if they've gone through something that has caused trauma, and we want to be transparent in that, then we do have a thing that's called emergency counseling, where we can take them through that as well. But I do think there is a place and time where, like you said, there are those who want that special attention. And the way we circumvent that is, okay, before you get that special attention, if this is not an emergency, let's try the word first. Let's make sure that you're giving God the attention he needs with your issue before seeking additional means.
Well, when I hear the question, I'm in my educator brain. So in education, we have something called response to intervention, RTI. And each student, I should say, or family who has a concern, as the school counselor, they're going to call, they're going to say, hey, Dr. Anderson, I feel like my student is struggling, et cetera. So what we do is, number one, we have systems in place that allow the families to start at an entry point so that we can at least sit down and have a conversation to get a better understanding of what they're trying to explain. And we meet as a team, so it's not necessarily an individual that is going to determine what is actually happening or what should be the next step. So once the families come, we have a RTI team or committee, and we are representative of the system that's already established in the school. We listen to the family, and we have assessments that are already in place that's going to provide specific information that not only will the educators that's in the room be able to receive, but the families. We can have a more intentional conversation. So I feel like when people, I'm looking at from that lens, even in the church, if we can be intentional in establishing teams or systems and even potentially assessments, they exist, we can get those and we can put them in place so when individuals come in, it's a process that we can take them through. I heard you just say, y'all have a process. So it works, and then we can determine what should be the appropriate next steps. When I discuss tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, one is the more generalized or universal tier. We always start there. We never want to assume just because a student is failing in math that they have a disability. We always want to give the benefit of the doubt. So we start at the lowest level, and then through conversation and whatever the data we gain through particular assessments, then it will determine, do we need to go to tier 2 or tier 3, which is the maximum level. In each tier, there is something called accommodations, which would mean based on the information we have gathered, it determines what accommodation needs to be in place to support that particular student and their family. So there is steps and processes as a church that we can try to collaborate with other individuals outside of the church that are more skilled, and that is their area of expertise. We can borrow those things and implement them so we can support those who are in our local congregations.
Amen.
I'd like to add to that as well. I think it's also important to listen well, right? Ask thoughtful questions, but listen well. Not just to what's being said, but also to what is not being said. And then that will help you to, or help us to identify the issue. Is it really what it is, or is it not? And then from there, we can refer out if necessary, or we can pray them through.
Yeah.
That's good, very good. So going from that, and I'm hearing a lot of setting up systems. How many of you guys have mental health ministries in your church? Like right now, you know of there's a mental health ministry in your church. I think there's a few hands, but I think because, again, it's something that we now talk about, it is a necessary thing, but you have to have the right people running that system. And that leads us to the second question, or third question. When should a pastor or ministry leader recognize that a situation is beyond their expertise and refer someone to a licensed mental health professional? Because chemical imbalances are real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are things that are passed down in the DNA. things that people did not ask for, but it could have skipped grandpa and dad and came to you, and you have no clue that this is in your blood. So how does a ministry leader know, okay, this is beyond my expertise?
I think first and foremost, we have to acknowledge the reality that this is a situation. I think a lot of pastors get in over their head because they minimize. You know, they minimize mental illness, and they just say, we're just going to keep tarrying with you at the altar. And we just going to listen to you, talk to you, and tell you, just keep praying. Go pray harder. You didn't pray hard enough, go pray again. And so there has to be a level of education that senior leaders are intentional about obtaining, so that you have the awareness that this is a real issue. And if y'all don't mind, I want to give you a book I always recommend that one of my grad school professors had us invest in, and it's called The Minister's Guide to Psychological Disorders and Treatments. And it is by Brad Johnson and William L. Johnson. And this is not for you to go trying to diagnose people. Let's put that disclaimer out there. Just because you read a book doesn't mean you can diagnose people. But this is the thing I like about this book is because it places you in ministry situations and scenarios of what you're going to typically deal with as a minister, as a pastor, as an elder, and some of the signs that we will try to spiritualize that are actually psychological. And it allows you to be able to identify it, so then you can say, oh, this is something that I need to recommend, refer them out to. It is not for you to say, oh, you know what? I know what this is. This is borderline personality disorder. No, this is for you to say, oh, wait, we're venturing into waters that I'm not experienced navigating, and I'm going to pray with you, but look, I have some references I can give you. That's right. So that you can talk to someone, because I believe that with prayer and with your spiritual growth and us walking with you spiritually and you getting this help, you're going to be able to have authority over this situation and real healing. But you can't do that if you act like it doesn't exist and if you're ignorant of what situation you're in. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to stop being intimidated by these discussions and by these situations. These are real life issues that are keeping people out of the church. I have people who are senior pastors, executive pastors, PhDs, high-level people who have not had safe places to express and to navigate the things they're going through mentally, because their pastors are the peers that are around them would demonize them. And so people are literally avoiding the church. Pastors have broken up marriages with horrible counseling.
Wow.
Pastors have missed signs of suicidal ideations because of ignorance.
Yeah.
And so we have to be intentional. There are certificate programs.
Yeah.
There are classes you can take just to know enough to know when you need to refer. It ain't even for you to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, LPC. It is just to know enough to know when this is too deep for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so prayer is always the answer.
Amen.
But there are also things we can add to that that can help them really walk in the wholeness that God has called for them to have.
So let me jump into this last question, and then I have something else I would like you guys to give to the audience. The fourth question, has the church sometimes mistaken a mental health condition for a spiritual problem? Or treated a spiritual problem as only a mental health issue?
Absolutely.
You want to go?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is my, y'all excuse me if I get a little passionate. This is my heart, okay? So, I think too often as a body, we stand in a position of either or. When the conversation is really both and.
Yeah.
When we look at how we are created as people, we're triune beings.
Yeah.
Body, soul, and spirit. Spirit allows us to be God conscious. Soul allows us to be self-conscious. Body allows us to be world conscious. And we have to nurture all parts of that because they're all interacting with one another that allow us to have the experience in this earth and have the relationship with God that we have. Yeah. And so I get this question when I tell you this is probably one of the most popular questions I get. Is it spiritual or is it natural? What do I do? It's both. Correct. It's a chicken and the egg question. What came first? It's did a demon create the symptom or did my action create the demon? Open the door for the demon. Yeah. And there's always this wonder of how do I approach it? We have to approach it both ways, practically and spiritually. Because even when we go through deliverance, bondage creates habits. And so demons create these habits, mental thought patterns, emotional habits that we still have to contend with after the demon's gone. Because when I've lived my life in bondage, I learn how to navigate and how to think and how to move and how to speak according to the bondage. I tell this story all the time that I dealt with iron deficiency, right? And my husband and I have been together since we were 17. And our whole relationship, honey, I've been one of them crunchy ice eaters. Yes. How many of you like the Sonic ice? Hey, let it bless you. But anyway, I ate a lot of ice. And I remember going to the doctor. The doctor was like, your iron, your platelets, all the things are low, 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 low. You need to get an iron infusion. You so low, you need to get to IV, and we need to pump iron in you once a week for 5 weeks. And I told my husband, I said, you know what? I think they say you eat ice when you're anemic. I think I'm probably not going to crave ice after I get my iron levels right. He said, I don't know, babe. I think you just like ice. He said, as long as we've been together, you eat ice. Yeah. And lo and behold, I had to get 5 infusions. By 3, I had a cup of Sonic ice and just poured it out. I was like, who is this woman? Who am I becoming? Wasting perfectly good ice. And I said all that to say is that many of you think you're dealing with your personality when you're dealing with a deficiency. There are a lot of things that we think are us. This is just the way I was raised. No, it's a deficiency of love. It's a deficiency of security. It's a deficiency of peace. It's a deficiency in identity. And we began to become who we need to be to survive. And so this is spiritual and it's natural. Because first I have to deal with the spiritual bondage that entered in from the trauma. But then after I come and cough and throw up and roll around on the altar, I still don't know what life looks like free. And I told people, a lot of y'all are free from anxiety. You just have an automatic emotional response because all you know is fear and worry and anxiety. Peace feels abnormal to you. Wow. And so we think, oh, maybe the deliverance didn't work. It worked. But now you need the tools to change your behavior and your thought patterns and your emotional patterns so that you can walk in the freedom. See, you already free, but how do I navigate it when all I know is this? Yeah. And so this is us tending to the The body, the soul, and the mind. The faculties of the soul are what? Mind, will, and emotions. Where the main issues you have in your walk with God. Your mind, your will, and your emotions. And your soul holds your memories. It's also the place of your personality. It stores up your history. And so even when you're getting free in the realm of the soul, it still has the memories and the experiences. And this is where we get to that word, therapeuo. Therapeuo is the Greek word that we get therapy from, but it is also a form of healing. It is a form of healing that demonstrates compassion and is processed, okay? And so we have aiomai, which is the other word for healing, that demonstrates God as the great physician. That's that immediate healing. When we have miracle services and somebody gets healed from cancer and their limb grows, that's the God as the great physician. But then there are times where he says, the way I'm going to heal you in this season is therapeuo. He says this is going to be a process of undoing. This is going to be a process of leading you into wholeness and not just relief of symptoms. And so we have to do both. You have to recognize that I need the practical tools, and I need to also be discipled, and I also need to do the spiritual work. Okay, it's all the same. So when you're dealing with things, instead of wondering, is this something that I need to be praying? You always pray. Always. Men should always pray and not faint. Always pray. Always. But then ask yourself, are there tools that I can utilize to help? I'm a firm believer of Jesus, deliverance, and therapy. In that order, Jesus, deliverance, then therapy. You can't counsel out a demon. Jesus first, roll around a little bit, cough, yawn, all that stuff, up and out. And then go sit in somebody's chair and learn how to live like you're free.
Really good. We're down to 36 seconds. That was really good. So in hearing all of these things, again, mental health, and you bring it into the church, there's so many things we've been taught. And one thing I know for myself, I'll speak for myself, when I hear somebody own their mental illness. Like, you can have a mental illness, but when I hear the words, my anxiety, it's like, it's not yours. Like, there's Bible that says worry does not belong to you. It shouldn't, right? But on a more serious note, and I want to get from everybody, time is gone, the reality that what do we do when because this has happened to me, when we do hear someone say, I'm thinking of killing myself, or another situation, I've actually thought about killing my mother. When we hear these things, how serious do we take them? Because for me, in the nursing field, once I hear you say, this is just me, that you're thinking about killing yourself, I automatically am going to call the number and they're going to come pick you up. Because I can't sleep until I know somebody's with you, because you might seriously, so, you know, whether you're playing or not, because some people say they're going to do it and they're not. They say, half of the people that say they are, they don't. They're not serious about it. But for me, that's my practice. I'm going to call the people, and you're going to go sit on somebody's psych ward and let them walk you through. That's right. But what do we do as Christians if we're in our small groups? I'm just talking to a sister, and she says, yeah, these are the thoughts I have. What are the best practices with that?
Well, I'll start. Being licensed, I am a mandated reporter, which means if you tell me I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to kill my husband, that demonstrates intent and means. Well, intent, I would say. But if you add to that, I'm going to take pills when I get home, that is a means. You have the means. You also have an intent to do it. I have to report. I have to protect my license. So please don't tell me.
Same, mandated reporter. So if I hear it, I'm going to call, there's numbers like crisis hotlines, et cetera. And I think it would be wise for the church to have that information for those of us who serve in various capacities, so we will know where to point people to, or we know how to access those hotlines as well. And don't look at it like a negative if you have to call. This is how, in school, when we hear somebody say it, how we free ourselves. It's not my responsibility to determine if that was going to be followed through or not. My responsibility is just to report. And there's someone else who's going to then pick up, that's the collaborative effort, and they're going to do further investigation to determine if that person meant it or not. So I'm just going to report, and I've done my part.
Yeah, and I guess I'll share a backstory. When I was younger, I had a friend whose brother went and committed suicide based on a relationship. He called me, and this is as a kid, and said, hey, he was my world, I'm about to do the same thing. In that moment, I prayed over him, I ministered to him, and then I called his mama, right? And so there to me, in complete agreement, you have to take that next step of who is going to secure their safety when they're away from me, right? And so absolutely, you want to do all the spiritual things, but you also want to do the natural things and make sure that they're physically safe.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I feel as believers, and especially if it's like somebody you're close to, sometimes we put the pressure on us to be the savior.
Right.
And that's dangerous, guys. You have to get them help, because more than anything, you have to desire for them to be safe more than you be liked or trusted. You know, well, they told me this in confidence. I don't want, no, because then what if they do harm themselves? You have to live with that.
That's right.
So you cannot allow people pleasing and this superhero syndrome to make you take responsibility for something that is not yours to carry. You absolutely need to report. You need to direct them. A person can go into an ER and say, I have a desire to harm myself, and they will admit them and do a psychological evaluation.
Right.
So even if you don't have the numbers, say, hey, I will take you to the ER.
Yeah.
Can you get to the ER? Okay, go to the ER.
Right.
You know, because you can't put that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Just make sure they're safe.
Amen. That's it.
Let's give it up for our guest. And as you guys are leaving the stage, and we're going to bring on our third party, I do think it is important that every church and ministry have some type of mental health ministry. That does not mean that you have to be a certified counselor or anything like that, but if you have a ministry that just has the resources, and then reach out to someone, a professional that can give you best practices, that could be something that your church does. But one more time, give it up for our mental health group.